we're back again to pick right up where we left off. Still just building up more opacity and more darkness in the skies in these scenes. It's really just going to continue to be a dance, like a paint dance going forward, where we just continue to build things up and move around the page, putting in the lights and the darks and all of the different colors and hues and all of it that the painting needs. And we're just going to keep adjusting and fine-tuning until we're done. This is a little palette that my husband got me for Christmas last year, and I love it because it's a stack of little porcelain dishes. So that's what I'm going to be using for a whole bunch of blending and palette needs going forward in this video. But if you don't have something like this, you can use any type of palette. I just have so much paint all over all of my other palettes. I needed to start fresh somewhere, so this is what I'm using. But anyhow, I love this thing. Maybe I'll put a link for it in the description in case any of you want your own porcelain palette stack. And I'm just gonna mess around with these wings for a while. I started with this green, but I don't think that was really the color I was aiming for. But that's okay. I mean, they're so light too, so he's gonna have to have something to darken it up since they're against the tree and it's supposed to be nighttime, but we can start with this color, it's fine. And oh my gosh, let me get our reference photos up because we're going to be working on the crow and the dragon a whole bunch in this one. I wanted his wings and his little tail. I don't know what that's called at the end of his tail, but his wings and that part of his tail and his spikes and his antlers to all be the same color because harmony. This is the thing that I love about gouache so much, because look how dark the sky is behind this dragon, and yet I can just paint this bright green right over it. It's so fun. It's so easy to work with. I love layering paint on top of paint, and when it works and it stays, it's glorious. A moment for the fact that I discovered that I feel like an ad for InShot. I do have an associates link I'm going to put in the description, and I feel so silly putting associate links anywhere because I don't really have like any kind of audience to speak of, especially here on YouTube. I have like a little bit of an audience on Substack, and if anyone's here from Substack, oh my gosh, I love you people. But I'm certainly not sponsored by anyone or anything crazy like that. At least not yet. Probably never. But I do really like InShot. Not sponsored, unfortunately. And I learned that you can just draw directly onto the photo editor because I'm using my iPad to edit this. And so this thing in my palette was bothering me. It is just paint and water, I promise. But I was just like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of giving me the gibblies. I could just draw over it, since I figured out that you could just draw over things in this program. So 10 points for InShot. That was really fun. Got a little carried away on this video and all of the ones that follow it probably. So anyways, thanks. Thanks for being here. One more note, while I'm still just kind of painting things in this very, once again, paint by numbersy kind of way. To the left of my Hemi palette, you may notice a water bottle. And I just want to talk for a moment about the stickers on that water bottle. My friend Breezy Brookshire drew those because she's a children's illustrator and she's amazing. Anyways, Breezy, if you see this, I'm absolutely loving these stickers. They're so great. Her art is amazing. Please go look her up. Okay, I'm just doing the same thing again where I'm adding more pigment, building it up. I'm leaving some gaps in between as if the dragon has feathers, and leaving those gaps will leave room for a little texture. It'll help me not totally lose the entire shape of his wings and the lines that I've sketched. Noticed a little dot here that I want to get rid of, so I'm just going to get rid of it. This is the beauty of gouache. Basically just erased it with water. When I mix colors, it's largely pretty experimental. Just trying to see what happens if I mix these greens, because I'm still trying to figure out a better color for these dragon wings and antlers and horns and well, antlers and spikes and the tail, whatever that is. I still don't know what it's called. I am so close to overloading this brush badly. Like all I ever do is overload my brush. Okay, but I'm adding more water to this because the consistency was not such that I could do a smooth, detailed line. Oh, I think I was going to try to make the castle the same color as the dragon's wings and antlers, etc., etc. Because apparently I really like harmony. I'm just bringing it up all the time. At first I tried to go around these little windows so I could save the spots where they were, but ultimately that ended up not working out, so I just painted over everything, and it's totally fine because I'll just kind of sort of remember where they were, and I'll come back and I'll paint new windows on right over the green. tap the paint to see if it's dry or if it's tacky. And I guess I decided it was dry enough for me to add more paint on top, so it must be pretty dry. You'll see me cover and uncover the gouache. It's because anytime I go to take a break, I'm trying to make sure it doesn't spend all that time just drying out on me. And I am getting yet another blue to work on the crow with. Crows are black, obviously, right? But it's really almost impossible just to paint black. And this is kind of a good example of the trap of storybook colors. Like I mentioned in an earlier video, there can be a tendency to just color the thing, the color that you imagine it would be in a storybook. And real life isn't really like that so much. Obviously, crows are not blue in real life, but they're a little bit blue in real life. They're kind of iridescent. So if you look at them really closely, you'll see a lot of different colors. It's not just black. And black, straight up black, is almost impossible to paint because then you don't have any high values or low values. And I mean, this is why whenever I try to take a picture of my solid black cat, he just looks like a void in the floor, right? He looks like a hole in the floor. Unless he's got really good lighting on him, and then you can start to see some different values come out. And it's going to look like different colors. If you look really closely, you'll see some blues, you'll see some, I don't know, it depends on what the light's doing. But for a crow, I'm never just going to paint him black. I'm going to start with blue, I'm going to be throwing in some purple, and he'll be getting pretty dark in some places. But if we start using a lot of different colors, he can still look like a crow, and he can still read crow, but he's never just going to be like a solid black creature. Okay, I'm just gonna fiddle with these wings until they start to look right. So my advice to you is do the same. I don't know, or just watch and see how I land, and I don't even know. Let the sheer amount of fiddling and fussing that I do with this encourage you, maybe, in case you're a fiddler and fusser too. I don't know how else to do art. You just keep putting down colors, keep messing with it. castle. Per usual, moving on to a different part of the page in order to give the thing I was just working on some time to dry. I really like to choose an unexpected color when I can. It's not all too common to see pinks and purples used in glowy lights, so I'm just going to try it and see how it looks. But that is an artistic choice for sure, so if you want to just use colors that are more on the yellowy and orange and like cream kind of spectrum, then that is your prerogative, my friend. You get to make your own artistic choices. You could even do your own unexpected glowy colors if you want. There's nothing wrong with using green or blue. Lights can come in all kinds of colors. It's up to you. Although, of course, bear in mind that if your plan is to just follow along with what I'm doing and follow the color choices that I'm making, the colors that I choose for the lights are going to impact the colors that I choose for how the lights are reflecting on everything around them. So yeah, so if you go rogue, just like plan for that, I guess. And lest I sound as if this is a very serious choice to make, let me remind you to hold it loosely and don't be afraid to experiment. It's just a painting. It's just a painting. You can always make another one and another. And while I'm at it, I'm going to use the same paint to add some color to the moon. And if I recall correctly, all of this that I'm doing right now and messing with is going to get painted over with that same really dark blue later. So it goes. I was trying to make it work, make it look kind of glowy. I don't know. I think I was looking at it at this point and just thinking, I don't think this is working. So I was continuing to press through, which will happen sometimes. Okay, there's just a lot of me messing around with this little scene and the stars and everything, and it's all gonna get painted over later. So I think I'm just gonna cut this and let's cut to the chase a little bit more, huh? Moving back to our little glowy orbs. See the difference? How the pink is right up against the blue here? giving us a glimpse of the contrast between light and dark that we need in order to be able to see the light beginning to glow. This pink is working as a less saturated step down from the very saturated orange paint around the edges of the moon. And as we go towards the middle of the moon, it'll get lighter and brighter and lighter and brighter until the core of your floaty, glowy thing is super bright, especially in comparison to all of the darker tones around it. I'm gonna blur this out a little bit. Glowy things are blurry. And I'm gonna pull this somewhat saturated yellow in here for our glowy orbs. I don't know if I'm gonna have them be stars yet or not, but regardless, this needs to happen. So here we go, adding some of this saturation. Yeah, that's almost orange that I'm choosing. Time to define this dragon a little bit more. Let's get some more dark values up in here. darken it up under his scales here, and it's gonna define some scales and show us where they are and give him so much more dimension. And you'll notice that my paint is pretty saturated with paint and not nearly so much water at this point because I have so many layers. And also note that I let him dry completely before I went adding yet another layer on top. This is kind of a funny thing to note, but if you look at that paper towel, you can see when I put this wet brush down on it, the mark that it leaves and how wet that is compared to the marks that I left behind earlier when I blotted my brush down when it was not nearly so wet. So that's something that you can note. This is part of why I'm always blotting my brush to check what the saturation is like, what the dilution is like. You can tell if there's more water, more paint, whatever. So of course and so you can look at this again, this consistency is what I'm after for adding on top of the layers that we already have so that I don't reactivate paint from underneath, and also so that I can have this lovely, very opaque paint to work with. Gonna check real quick if this castle is dry. not quite dry enough, so I'm just going to keep on working on the crow. You can see all this definition that she's got in her feathers now. And that came from going over her with dark and then going over her with light and just studying where the light hits and where the shadows fall and all of it. So you can see that what I'm doing is pretty slow. It's a pretty extremely slow process. It is very easy for me to underestimate exactly how much time this takes, which is why we're in this predicament with all these videos here. Thank you for being so patient, everyone. If you're here, bless. But you can see that what we're doing is really not like when you just open a coloring book and choose a color and just color something in the lines. It's a layer on a layer on a layer. You're moving to dark, moving to light, moving to dark, moving to light, looking at it again, looking at your reference again, coming back and making small changes just a little bit at a time. And obviously here I've moved on to the books. I decided this one's going to be green, I guess. And it does kind of start out the color book way, doesn't it? You find your shapes, you color them in with one continuous color, but then we don't often stop there. This is not a mouse turd, by the way. It is a piece of polymer clay from another project I was working on. I feel ridiculous. I did not notice it was there. Anyways, I'm going to draw a flower over it because why not? You might notice that I skipped a book and I went to the next one in the stack. And that is because, can anybody guess why? It's because the book that I just painted is still wet and I don't want my colors bleeding and running all together. When I did the green book on top, I've got the spine facing towards us, and then when I did the purple book, it's at a little bit of a slant, so I tried to leave some room for pages, and this book is at a slant too. It's even more pronounced, so I'm just going to do these shapes with no paint in the middle to remind myself that there would be pages there. I have tried to edit most bits that are like this out because it is very boring and almost nothing is happening, but I'm gonna leave this here just so you can see how slow and thoughtful this process can be. Because here I'm just mixing colors, I'm thinking about what I want to paint next, and I'm choosing blues and greens. And when we were in class, I was telling you guys, choose this blue, choose that green, just because we were kind of in a time crunch, but it's pretty cool to just sit quietly for a while and look at the colors and really think about what you want to put down next and what the cause and effect of adding a different color might be before you do that. And it's okay to go at a snail's pace. It really is. And you can just remind yourself that it's not that serious. it's still not that serious. It's just a painting. And you can try the colors that you want, especially since it's gouache. Some other mediums are not quite so forgiving, but if you choose a color and then it's not your favorite, you can always pull that pigment up with some water and a dry brush, or you can just paint over it. So sometimes I need to mix the colors to see what it's going to look like after they're mixed, because I can predict it a little bit with all the experience that I have, but sometimes I just still need to see it. Okay, we've made tons of progress, so let's stop here and I'll see you in the next one.